Everybody, how you doing tonight? Excellent. Well, welcome here to Central Branch and to Eclipse 101. Everything you ever would want to know about the solar eclipse. And so, I heard some of the questions beforehand. We're actually going to be covering everything you can imagine in tonight's presentation. And so, we've got a little bit about the science and the history of the eclipse, what you could expect to see, what you're going to use to see that eclipse, and most importantly for Central Florida, a lot of the myths and misconceptions that come with this eclipse. There's a lot of fear and panic seemingly going around right now about what you can and cannot see, or what happens if you go outside. I don't want to give too much away, but you're not going to go blind. You're not going to go blind. So just keep that one in mind. But there is a lot to talk about, and so I'm really happy to be out here tonight. And so what we'll do is after the presentation, we turn it over to you guys. We do all the questions then, and hopefully we get to answer everything we can so that you're ready for the eclipse on Monday. So of course, what we need to do is start off with what eclipse is in the first place. And so for us, there are two major types of eclipses. There's the solar eclipse we're getting next week, and the lunar eclipses that, of course, we are far more familiar with. And so anytime you have a system of three different bodies, sun, earth, moon, once they line up, you're going to get an eclipse. Something is going to end up in a shadow. And so the earth produces a much larger shadow than the moon does. That's why we're able to completely cover it. And it's the reason why all of you, I'm pretty sure, have seen a lunar eclipse before. When the sun enters into the Earth's shadow, it turns red because of the atmosphere of the Earth. If you're on the nighttime side of the planet, you will see a lunar eclipse. There is nothing particularly special about any one place over the other. With a solar eclipse, we're flipping that around. The moon's shadow is much, much smaller. And because it is so much smaller, it's only going to fall on a specific part of the Earth's surface. So you've got a moon that is 400 times smaller than the sun. Our sun, almost 900,000 miles across. Our moon, a little over 2,200 miles. And yet, it also happens to be about 400 times closer. So when those two things work together, the sun and the moon are basically the same size in our sky. So if you're wondering how big the sun really is in the sky, see a full moon and that's going to give you an exact idea. So, for a sense of context, if you go outside, you hold up your pinky finger, you close one of your eyes, and you look at what your fingernail covers on the sky, that is equal to the amount of space that would cover both the sun and the moon. They are quite small in our sky. And so, since they're about the same size, the moon can completely cover the sun. But instead of a shadow that can cover an entire moon, the moon's shadow, or at least the part that gives you a total eclipse, is only about 150 miles across. And that's the best we can do. For this eclipse, the shadow is only about 80 miles across. And so you think about 80 miles against the entire size of the Earth, and you can understand why you have to be in a specific place at a specific time to see it. Now, the thing about lights and shadows is that here on Earth, we are not used to working with really big lights. So if you've got a flashlight, you're holding up to an object, the shadow does pretty much one thing. It's a nice dark shadow behind it, the light goes everywhere else. With a really big star, the light is coming from a lot of different directions. And by the time it reaches the Earth, that light is much bigger than our planet or the moon. That means that we have two parts of a lunar shadow. The part where you can see the eclipse is in the middle. It's what we call the umbra. The outside of that shadow, the part where you might still see a part of the sun, is what we call the penumbra, P-E-N, umbra. And the best way to remember this is that if you're in the penumbra, you get a partial eclipse. If you're in the umbra, it's unbelievable. So, you can take that one. So, if you're in the umbra, total eclipse. If you're in the penumbra, partial eclipse. If you're in neither, no eclipse. This is how it works out for us. Very small area of the Earth, and on August 21st, in just a few days, that shadow will trace from Oregon down the United States and exited Charleston, South Carolina. So this is an easy way to understand. Things line up, there are shadows, the shadow has to fall on some part of the Earth. But the other big question we get is, if this is the case, why don't we have an eclipse every single month? And one of the reasons is because the Earth's orbit and the Moon's orbit are not exactly lined up. So, in this image, you want to pay attention to the yellow line. That is the Earth's orbit. It doesn't change. And because we seem to make the sun move through the sky, we can also say that this is the sun's path against the stars. Astronomers call it the ecliptic, and it goes through the constellations that make up your astrological signs, for example. The moon's path goes above and below our orbit. And that means that some months, the moon's shadow misses the Earth above it. Sometimes it misses the Earth below it. And sometimes it is only on part of the Earth. And depending on where it is in its orbit, either between us and the sun or behind us, we can get an eclipse. So in a given year, you think that this is the first time we've had an eclipse in 40-something years. The last solar eclipse visible in the world was last year. There are at least 2 solar eclipses a year, every single year. It's just, it doesn't happen here all that often. And so that's why, of course, it's happening in the United States and only in the United States. The whole world stops because it's happening to us. And if it gets people excited, so be it. But any given place on our planet gets a total eclipse on average once every 300 years. So what that means is that here in the Orlando area, the last time we had a total solar eclipse was back in 1918. It lasted 20 seconds. It's not a very good one. The good one before that lasted over 4 minutes, was 1737. The next one, I'm not going to give away just yet, but if you are under the age of about 40, you're going to want to get on board for this one. It's close. It's not next year, but it is still pretty close. Orlando and the Florida area is going to get a great eclipse in the not too distant future. So all this works together, and we get eclipses. But the professor part of my title isn't from astronomy. So I actually teach history at UCF, and I run the planetarium over at Seminole State College, all the way in the distant land of Sanford. There's a whole county. But getting to work with science and work with history, you get to do something really important, and that's tell stories. And so to give you a little bit of a story about an eclipse that changed the universe, we're going to go all the way back to 1990. In 1990, there is a young German scientist. He's a physicist, he's an astronomer, he's brilliant, but he also has put out a brand new theory about the universe that has not yet been proven. I'll give you one guess as to who this is. Albert Einstein. He will become the single most famous scientist in history. But at the time, in England, there is a far more famous gentleman by the name of Sir Arthur Eddington, who has the most perfect British name you can imagine. Arthur Eddington is the most famous scientist in all of England, and he's a particular fan of Albert Einstein. And so he decides, given this brand new theory, he's going to test it. And so one of the things about this general theory of relativity is that Einstein says space and time are the exact same thing. And because that's the case, if you have something really massive, like a star, for example, its gravity can bend the universe. And if it can bend the universe, it can bend light. Now, that's a difficult thing to test today. It's a difficult thing to test in 1990. But they have an opportunity waiting for them on a little island off the coast of Africa. It's called Principe. And in 1990, May of 1990, a solar eclipse passes directly over the island. And so Arthur Eddington takes his team. They go down to this island. They want to take pictures. And they're going to compare the positions of the stars in the picture to the positions of the stars that they know are already there. If there is a change, and it should be the exact amount that Einstein's theory predicts, the theory is correct. That's a big step forward. And so, for pictures that change the world, and in this case, the universe, this would be one of them. It is a total eclipse picture from almost 100 years ago. And marked, right here, are two stars whose positions are different from what they're actually supposed to be. Eddington's team measures the positions of those two stars and finds out that they have shifted precisely the amount that Einstein's theory is predicting. 2 years later, Albert Einstein wins the Nobel Prize. And by his death in the 1950s, he is the single most recognizable person on the planet, which after World War II includes American presidents Winston Churchill, Joseph Stalin, the greatest people, the most recognizable people on Earth, Einstein number one on that. So this eclipse gives us a universe that is completely different than the one we had before. The one before is the universe of Isaac Newton. This one lets us understand black holes. This is the science of today. All of it starts with the solar eclipse back in 1990. So these are pretty important. If you were the ancient Mayans, you had no idea that this was happening. What you knew is that occasionally the sun's up in the sky and then it disappears. They believe that demons from the underworld came out. They called them obsidian butterflies. The Tasasum Hodel is what it is in the language. And these obsidian butterflies would eat people during eclipses. Now, think about something that is black, that flies, that comes out at night. A bat. These are gods and goddesses that are directly tied to bats. And because of all the caves down in the Yucatan, they would come out during an eclipse, fly around, and then, because the eclipse is done in a few minutes, have no idea what to do when the sun rises. And so they believe that the fear of these bats were souls escaping from the underworld, and they were going to take people back. Now, of course, that was 1,000 years ago. They're still trying to understand all of this. We, of course, know a lot better. But the obsidian butterfly, if you want a good band name, that's you can have it. But obsidian butterfly, gods turning their back on us, or the moon passing in front of the sun, all good explanations for the time. Now we know, of course, how it actually works. But given that, the big question we get is, what's it going to look like? What am I going to see? That's a really good question. Here in Central Florida, the answer is very, very simple. You're going to see what's known as a partial eclipse. So unless you are in the line of totality, if you have the proper filters, eclipse glasses, a telescope filter, binoculars that have the solar filters inside of them, if you're projecting it in a cereal box or off a mirror, this is what you're going to see. It will not get dark here in Central Florida. So if you have heard that it is going to get dark and that people will be able to look at the sun, that person is, wrong is too strong, misinformed. We'll go with that. To get a darker sky, we're talking any sort of drop in brightness, the sun has to be covered more than 95%. So, all of the sun, 5 million times brighter than the full moon. That's why if you look at it and you squint, there's a reflex. Your body prevents you from looking at the sun. We're kind of tuned to not do that. So if you cut 85% of the sun away, like what we're going to have in Central Florida on Monday, the remaining sun is 3 million times brighter than, which is still more than bright enough for you to have a reflex to look away. So if you're concerned that your kids are going to go outside and look at the partial eclipse and go blind, they can do that today. It's the exact same amount of danger. If you did not know that there was an eclipse on Monday, you would not be able to tell it was happening. And so for a lot of people, that's a shocking revelation. We know the ancient world knew that there were eclipses. They had no idea there were partial eclipses because no one could see them. The sun stayed too bright. So if you go out, it will look like a regular day. If it's Florida, fingers crossed, it'll be cloudy and you won't have to worry. But let's say it's nice and clear at 2:45, we're going to see a crescent sun that is still going to be way, way brighter than any of us can comfortably see. So if you go blind on eclipse day, it is because you have forced yourself to look at the sun. And I will say that 100 times over, you do not have to worry. You're not going to be able to look at it anyway, so if you want to see an eclipse, you're going to have the right filters, the right tools to be able to do that. But I'm just going to look up and see the eclipse, not going to happen. Your kids are going to be fine, and importantly, you're going to be fine as well. So we want to get that right out of the way. It's going to be a nice, safe eclipse day on Monday. If you're elsewhere in the country, things can be a little different. If we get to a place where there is a solar eclipse, but the moon is too far away, it's too small to cover up the sun, we get what's called an annular eclipse. So there's the moon completely surrounded by the sun. This is not going to happen on Monday, but it can happen sometimes more often than total eclipses. We've seen annular eclipses from the US 2 years ago. And so you need all the protection. That is still way too much sun for you to directly see. You're not going to be able to look directly at it. So this is a beautiful eclipse, but it's not the one people are holding out for. This is not the really, really good one. Yes?
The previous slide, is that what we're going to see, the previous one?
Think this, but maybe more about that much of the sun. A thin crescent. So maybe 2 or 3 days after the eclipse, we'll see that thin crescent moon in the sky, roughly the same size as the sun will see.
Okay, they said it was going to take 90 minutes or something?
The total movement across the sun, 3 hours.
Okay, how long are we going to see?
3 hours. The peak is going to be right about 2:45. But if you see it within an hour on either side, you're going to see an eclipse that looks like this. You do not have to go out at a specific time, and if you miss it, you've missed the eclipse. That's not how this works. So if you go out at 2:30 and 2:45 and 3, and you can properly filter your view of the sun, you're roughly going to see the same thing. It's not going to take you 30 minutes to view it. It is something where I'm running an event with 10,000 people on Monday. My view of the sun will be very cool, and then back to work. And I'm the astronomer. So by the end of this, you may get the sense that I'm not as excited about the eclipse as I should be. I'm real excited, but we also got to be realistic. Look at it, enjoy it, and go on with the rest of your day. If you're not in totality, you don't have to worry about it. And so we'll give you all the tips and tricks to be able to see that safely. So that's your annular eclipse. Then if you go see a total eclipse, things get really fun. So about 10 seconds before totality, when the total eclipse begins, we get what's called a diamond ring. And so it's named because it looks exactly like a diamond ring. It is the last light of the sun peeking through the valleys, craters, and canyons of our moon. The ancients would have been able to see this. And for them, it should have been proof that the moon was not perfect. It was not smooth. And so the view of the universe for 2,000 years wasn't just that the Earth was in the middle. That was important, but not the most important. The most important is that everything else but the Earth was perfect and never changed. So if our moon is imperfect and rough, has holes and hills and valleys, it's probably a bad sign for your idea. We can actually see that during a total eclipse. This is the time of an eclipse where it could be dangerous to directly look. Because about 10 minutes before the total eclipse begins, the sky begins to considerably darken. And for the next 10 minutes, your eyes are getting used to that darkness. When this light shows up, if you're staring directly at it, it's like turning on one of those really bright flashlights. It's probably not going to blind you, but it's not going to feel good either. And so you want to have that protection. No matter what eclipse you are at, whether it's here, or South Carolina, or Idaho, you should not be looking at the eclipse without protection until this is done. And if you're in a crowd of people, if you're anywhere with an astronomer, they will be yelling out numbers the entire time. They're going to be telling you how many seconds until that eclipse begins. So you'll hear somebody go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, glasses off. Then you can take the glasses off. It's safe, you're in the total eclipse. They'll also count you down, more than likely when you have to put them back on at the end of the eclipse. These are the kind of events that get astronomers really excited and like gregarious, and we want to talk to people. You're going to hear it. You're going to know somebody around who's going to be timing this to the second. And that's going to help you stay as safe as possible. Here in Florida, we don't have to worry about this for a while. But when that diamond ring goes away, we get a total eclipse. And a total eclipse is one of the most amazing sights in all of nature. Surrounding the sun is going to be the corona. So for those of you who know Spanish or any of the Romance languages, French or Italian or Latin, what does corona translate to?
Yeah.
That would be surveys. But the Romans, of course, the first Latins, they missed the crown of the sun. It is only visible in a total eclipse. It is entirely safe to look at because the combined brightness of this corona is about the same as the full moon. And so nobody's telling you don't look at the full moon. It might be bright, but it's not going to ruin your eyes forever. This corona is beautiful, wispy. It probably shouldn't be there, but these are real photographs of the eclipse. So this is one that was taken about 3 years ago, I think, in Asia. And along the edge, you'll notice these little red, pink flames. Those are what we call prominences. Those are eruptions off the surface of the sun that are visible during the eclipse. And so these are things that are invisible otherwise. The eclipse happens and they pop into view. But to give you an idea what you're looking at, surface of the sun, 10,000 degrees. It's the only thing exceeds it on Earth is a lightning bolt, which is about 50,000. The corona is 4 million. And so you take anything and you make it 4 million degrees, it will glow very, very bright. That is why we see it during the eclipse. This year, the maximum eclipse is about 2.5 minutes long. The longest eclipse that you can have on Earth is 7 minutes and 32 seconds. We know that to the second because we can do the math of how close the sun can get, how far we are from the sun. The best eclipses happen in July, the worst eclipses happen in January. And the reason is in January, the sun is closer to the Earth than it is in July. And so it doesn't feel like this in Florida. We're actually farthest from the sun on July 4th. We're closest to the sun in the first few weeks of January. So we don't feel that, clearly. But we would see that if we were looking at an eclipse. So a July and August eclipse tends to be a little bit longer. The longest anyone has ever watched an eclipse is 75 minutes. It happened once in 1973. And the man who did it chartered the Concorde. So for those of you of a more seasoned generation, who might remember the Concorde, the supersonic airliner, it actually flew along the path for 75 minutes. And when it exited the Earth, it was moving faster. The shadow was moving faster than the aircraft. Well over 1,200 miles per hour. But one guy sat in the seat on the left-hand side, looked out the window, and watched the solar eclipse for 74.5 minutes, which is pretty cool. He is double the amount of time under totality of anyone else living or dead. So an hour and 15 minutes under a solar eclipse is pretty cool. And so we can't do that again. We don't have the Concorde anymore. But we do have satellites that are going to be watching the Earth. We have telescopes on Earth that are going to be watching the eclipse. And we are still going to do quite a bit of science as it makes its way across the country. But as great as this is, you probably want to know more than anything else, how do we watch it? And that's really what we're going to do. How do you see an eclipse safely? Or in our case, how would you see an eclipse at all? You can't tell and it's way too bright. How would you see it in the first place? So our first and my personal favorite, easiest way to see it is with a telescope. If you've got a telescope that has a proper filter in the front, it will block almost all of the sun's light. You get to magnify the sun's disk. You get to see a sunspot that's currently on the surface. There's detail, and cool part, you can actually see that the edge of the moon is not smooth. You can see some of the craters and the valleys on the lunar surface. Now the problem is, you kind of need a telescope for this to work. And if you have a telescope, you gotta have the right filter. Telescopes without filters are the most dangerous things at any astronomy event, at any solar eclipse. This is an 8-inch telescope. That means that the mirror in the back is 8 inches wide. It collects enough light that you could, if you had an eyepiece, you have the sun inside the telescope, you could put a balloon up to the eyepiece and pop it with the heat coming out. Now, you'd probably move away before this, but say, worst case scenario, somebody's torturing you and holding your face to the telescope. That heat will evaporate the liquid in your eye in 3 seconds. So, we put a filter up front, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So, all of the light we get from the sun, these filters let through 1/1,000,000 of a percent. So that's almost no light at all. It's enough for us to see. These are completely safe. It's just, you gotta have one and have access to them. That may not be the best for everyone. But seemingly what everybody wants, what would be much easier to use, are Eclipse glasses. Everybody wants Eclipse glasses. If I walk around with Eclipse glasses, it is quite dangerous. I feel like I'm going to get mugged. We're figuring out, so at our planetarium, we're going to be giving away Eclipse glasses during our event. And so you're all free to come out. It's noon to 4:30 up in Sanford at the Seminole campus. It's also an hour and 10 minutes away, so we're realistic here. But we're also giving away 5,000 pairs of glasses. They are sitting in my office. And at the current street rate of $7 a pair, I've got $35,000 worth of merchandise in my office right now, and it's kind of scaring me. That's a decent car at $35,000. That's 3 decent cars, let's be honest. So of course my office has 3 locks. Hopefully nobody takes our 5,000 Eclipse glasses. But more importantly, these Eclipse glasses are your easiest way of seeing the eclipse. They are totally safe. There's been a lot about fake ones, counterfeit ones. Are they good? Are they not? Here's the thing. If you put on Eclipse glasses and you can see anything at all, they are bad. You should only be able to see the sun. If you have a bright flashlight, you'll probably be able to see the bulb and not much else. Because some of these new LED flashlights are incredibly bright. And only then they'll be faintly visible. You shouldn't be able to see people. You shouldn't be able to see trees. You should be only able to see the sun. And if you want the surefire, safe way of using an Eclipse glass, here we go. All right. I just have one, so no worries here. So you have your Eclipse glasses. You want to stay safe. Here we go. Step 1, look at the ground. This is a good step. So you're not looking at the sun. Step 2, place Eclipse glasses on it. Step 3, look at the sun. Step 3A, enjoy what you're seeing. Exclaim out, let people know how cool it is. Step 4, look down at the ground. Step 5, take off your glasses. It is not terribly difficult. I mean, this is common sense kind of stuff. It seems like people don't think that anyone else has common sense. Don't take them off when you're looking at the sun. They'll go in, the sunlight will get into your eyes. You're going to immediately look away. You're going to feel dumb for a few seconds. But you're not going to hurt yourself. So look down, take them off. When you've got these on, there is no limit to how long you can look at the sun. You don't need to give your eyes a rest after a minute or 10 minutes or an hour. The thing is that there's not much to see if you're staring at it for an hour. You'll see the moon move a little bit, but you could do that in 20 minutes for 10 seconds and see the exact same. We're really not playing this up as much as we should. But if you've got a pair of Eclipse glasses, you will probably wear them in total about 1.5 minutes over the afternoon. You can look at the sun whenever it's out with these glasses. With the Eclipse, it'll keep you safe. But if you go outside with these glasses, you will see nothing. run into things. And so you treat them like you would eyeglasses. Don't touch the lenses, don't scratch them, don't throw them in your car. Treat them with respect, and they're going to show you some amazing views of the sun. So if you get your hands on these, great. If you don't, not the end of the world. This is the really important part. There are so many different ways to see the eclipse that if you cannot get your hands on those, it's not the worst thing that's ever happened. We will find you a way, guaranteed, to see that.
Yes. You wear glasses. Should you take them off, or can you wear them?
What you should do is to place the eclipse glasses in front of your own glasses. And so if you wear glasses, I wear glasses sometimes as well, one of the best things to do is to hold it like this. And then hold it up to your face so that you're holding as much light as you can. And that will very much help you out. But you want these in front of anything you're looking at. So if you have these on and you look through a telescope that doesn't have a filter, you will burn your eyes. If you use these with binoculars and they're behind the binoculars, you will burn your eyes. If you hold up a magnifying glass, it will burn your eye. This must be in front of everything. But I would not recommend using these for any reason except for just your eyes, or if you're feeling kind of fun that day, take out your cell phone, put it up to the camera, and then take a picture of the sun. For your phone, this is the big thing. Do not point your camera at the sun. It is possible that your phone can take it. It is possible it will not burn the lens. It is also possible your phone will catch on fire. Now, anything is possible, especially if you got a Samsung. But keep in mind that is a lot of sun in a very, very small space. So I do not recommend pointing your camera at the sun. Even if you could, I would not recommend it. Just want to make sure that you're keeping your $800 iPhone from being a really cool phone that can't take any pictures. And what kind of phone is that? Now, if you don't have glasses, if you don't have a telescope with a filter, now I can get you some ideas that you can do at home that will showcase the part of it. The first is the oldest trick in the optical book. It's called a camera obscura. We've known about this for centuries, and if you take a pinhole and you put light through, that hole will focus the light and project an image. So this is something we've known about for several hundred years. It was the original idea for a movie camera and can be used to view the sun. Now, this is not the most stylish way to view the sun, but you can take a cereal box, put a piece of paper at the bottom that's white and clean, so that you can get the sun projected on it. 2 holes, one for your eye, and one that you'll cover up with aluminum foil. The aluminum foil will cleanly hold the hole in place. The light goes through the hole and projects the sun onto the back of the cereal. What makes this safe is that your back is to the sun. So if that's the sun, my back is to it, I'm holding it over my shoulder. Worst case scenario, next sun. So, oh, that's the other thing. This has not been brought up at all, but it is important. If you are outside viewing an eclipse, remember your sunscreen. Remember to take care of your skin while you're taking care of your own. So that's your little public service announcement. This is fun, if a little old-fashioned. So we'll try something a little bit better. We will get one of these guys. This is a solar telescope out of Texas. It is a telescope that utilizes a mirror all the way at the top. It tracks the sun and sends the light down this shaft, which goes about 300 feet into the earth. And so if you want to see the sun and you need to make it dimmer, there are 2 ways to do that. You either cut the amount of light that you're getting, which is what filters do, or you spread the light out. And so the best way to think about this would be with pizza dough. I've got a bowl of pizza dough. I stretch it out and make a pizza. Pizza's about this big. Now I can take that exact same amount of dough and stretch it to the size of this room. That's not going to work. But if I could, that would be an extremely thin pizza crust. Probably so thin I could see right through it. And so, if you stretch out the light, much less is going to fall on your eyes. Much safer. And so, at the bottom of this telescope is a big table with a white piece of paper. And every day an astronomer goes up to it and draws the positions of sunspots from a reflected projection of the sun. No lenses, nothing fancy, just a big mirror and about 600 feet of steel. And so if you can do that, you can have a sun with a lot of detail, about 10 feet across. I can't go 10 feet. It's big. What you can do at home is to make a mini version of this. So if you've got, and I apologize for the terrible PowerPoint Photoshop version of this, but you've got your sun, it gives off light, and then you've got a mirror, a hand mirror at home. Cover it up completely, and cut out a very small hole in the center. Probably something about the size of a dime. The smaller the hole, the sharper the image is going to be. The bigger the hole, the brighter, the blurrier. And so this is the way to view the eclipse if you're in a house. You could conceivably do this. So if we had the sun all the way up there, I've got my little spot mirror, and I line it up. I can project the sun onto a wall somewhere around. If it's shaded, even better. Because now what you've done is taken the sun's light, projected it somewhere that is much darker than the surrounding area. Say you've got a big cardboard box. Shoot this into the cardboard box. And you'll look inside and see a sun that is probably about the size of a basketball. It is more than big enough to see the eclipse the entire time. It is totally safe. The farther you are from your mirror, the bigger that sun is going to look. And so in this case, with the telescope, when you have 600 feet of reflection, you can make a 10-foot wide sun. And that is more information, more light, than just about any telescope in the world would be able to collect for the sun. There's a lot of detail you can get just from mirrors and a white table with paper on it. So take this, shrink it down. Now you've got an ability to see the sun, not looking directly at it. But this is probably a little bit more on the, there's a learning curve to it. We want to give you guys the guaranteed two simplest ways to see this partial eclipse. You can't get glasses. You can't get to a place with telescopes. You can't get to totality, but you're stuck at home. What can you do? Watching the news is for people who aren't creative. Is run to the kitchen, open up the drawers, open up the cabinets, and pull out your calendar. Your calendar, on average, will have 120 holes in it. There are actually standards that calendars are built to that dictate how many holes are in a calendar. This is a real thing. Somebody's job is to make sure there's a certain number of holes in the calendar. Amazing. Yeah. But the light will go through those holes. And if you've got something like a white piece of paper, I would recommend a white piece of foam poster board. Nice and light, but it's not going to fly around in the wind. You move that calendar back and forth, and you will focus hundreds of partial eclipses on that piece of paper. And you can watch the eclipse the entire time, completely safe, with your calendar. But maybe you don't want to go outside with the calendar, because the neighbors will stare and wonder what to do. And you want to be a bit more discreet in your eclipse viewing. If you really want it. I give you the cheese grater. Most handheld cheese graters have large holes and small ones. The small ones are going to give you a more focused view. It'll be sharper. The bigger holes, a brighter view. And so I would recommend that at the beginning of the eclipse, this would be, say, 1:15 to 2:15, and then again from 3:15 to 4:15. 2 hours on either side of the center. The smaller holes have more than enough light. It's going to look really good. For the middle hour, the larger holes are going to give you the view that you want. You can actually see these holes are not completely round. Go home and check your calendar. Put a flashlight here. You will see completely round circles on the wall. And so with this one's fun. Take your cheese grater and hold it up to your chest. And move it back and forth, line up with the sun, and you can project hundreds of eclipses onto your shirt. Your own personal eclipse view. Now, is there some risk in this? Yes, there's always risk in it. The biggest risk, you will cut your finger on one of these. Could happen anytime. You hate it when you get down to the bottom of the mozzarella and you get the knuckles all scraped. This, a really great way. You have a cheese grater at home. You've got a calendar at home. They will show you this eclipse. It may not be the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but if you want to see this eclipse, you're going to see this eclipse. We will give you a way to do so. And so these are all safe ways. They don't hurt your eyes. All the filters are going to be safe for you as well. So when you leave the presentation tonight, you will in fact be able to get a pair per family, per household. I will tell you this. If you think you need one per person, we've done planetarium shows with 100 kids, 100th, 3rd, and 4th grade. They like to run around. And with 5 pairs of glasses, every kid can see the sun in less than 5 minutes. With 1 pair of glasses, all of us could see the sun in about 20 minutes. It's not that difficult to be able to share along, look, down, take down, next to your neighbor, do it again. If you've got 1 pair and 10 people, you're all going to really enjoy the eclipse. That's what I'm telling you. So, if you can do better than a cheese grater, great. If you can't, you're still doing something awesome. You're still doing this eclipse. So, cheese grater, colanders, mirrors, and then telescopes with really big filters on the front. So you've got all sorts of different possibilities here. But this is the big one. This is what we do more than anything else. Things that you might have heard that we want to make sure you have the right information. So this is specifically for here in Central Florida, for the conditions that we're going to experience. The conditions we'll experience in the Orlando area are going to be the same, essentially from Jacksonville down to Tampa. So pretty much anywhere on I-4 or the Turnpike is going to have the same experience. So first one, the sky will get darker. We already kind of got to this. It will not. If you don't know that there is an eclipse, you will not be able to tell. When you put your glasses on or you use your cheese grater, you will be able to tell that there's a partial eclipse, but you will not be able to otherwise. Your pets will not know that there is a partial eclipse. We've gotten this question a lot. Can I let my dog outside? Yes. Hey, dogs do not usually love the sun. I don't believe it. But more importantly, your dog doesn't know. Your cat doesn't care. Your bird's not going to know. So, don't worry about your animals. They're in fine shape. Number 2, the eclipse will blind you. The eclipse will not blind you. It is the massive amount of sunlight that will blind you. And since you have a natural human reflex to not look at the sun, you're in really good shape. So unless you're sitting in Charleston or Nashville or Casper, Wyoming, it's not going to blind you. You know you've tried it. Show of hands, adults, be honest. How many of you have tried to look at the sun before? Like pretty much. And if you didn't, right, there's some, like, I just saw some hands were like, fine, I'll admit it. You know it's really difficult. I assume none of you are blind from it, so you'll be fine. Number 3, viewing the eclipse is unsafe. And this is a personal one for me. I'm going to name drop myself. And so I was on the news a couple of days ago for a local station that will not be named. And they did a great piece about safely watching the eclipse. And at the end of it, they decided to talk to an optometrist. And he's sitting there in his office, and this jamoke, if I'm telling you, goes, I wouldn't watch the eclipse at all, even with a filter. It will blind you instantly. Now, that is completely, demonstrably false. It is also something that can incite a panic in people. If a doctor says it, it must be true. I will tell you, this guy had no idea what he was talking. We've been doing this for like 400 years. We know how this works. If you are using common sense and you have these proper filters in place, you can view the eclipse for 4 hours and you will be fine the next morning. So I made this guarantee at every single stop we've been to. None of you are going blind on Eclipse Day. All of you will have your eyesight on Tuesday morning, guaranteed. So, not a doctor, but I'll guarantee it anyway. You will be safe enough. Your body will take care of you. Those glasses will be there. So, want to keep that in mind. We don't want people to be afraid. We want people to be prepared. And then, I guess we've overheated. It's okay, we're done with it. There is one last thing you should be aware of. So before we turn it over to question and answers, I do want to prepare you for something pretty amazing. So on your calendars, I want you to put down August 12th, 2045. On that day, some of you are like, the hell am I making there? August 12th of 2045, a total eclipse will pass directly over Central Florida. And the line of totality, the center of the eclipse, will pass about 10 miles south of Kissimmee. So, if we go out about 2 p.m. on August 12th, 2045, right here in Kissimmee, we look up, and the eclipse happens. We will see 6 minutes of total eclipse here in Central Florida. It is easier to tell you the cities you will not see it in. Pensacola, Jacksonville, Key West. Literally every other major city in Florida will see this eclipse. If you want to watch it at Disney, you can. If you want to watch it in Tampa, you can. If you want to watch it on South Beach, you can. It will be the greatest American eclipse of the 21st century. And so if you've seen the news for this year, and states are talking about states of emergency and natural disasters, and we don't know how bad the traffic's going to be, I will give you this piece of information for 2045. We'll get to the question. The current estimate for the number of visitors to Florida during the eclipse in 2045 is between 40 and 60 million people. So, given our population growth, it is entirely possible that in August of 2045, there will be 100 million people in the state of Florida. So, I've been on 192, I've been on John Young, I've been on I-4. You've seen nothing until you see it in 2045. We will just sink into the ocean with all these people standing there. It's going to be terrible. But it will also be the best eclipse of the 21st century. So, keep that in mind. 2045 is the one you're looking for. If you miss this eclipse, do not fret. The next eclipse visible in the U.S. is 2024. It will go from Texas to New York. And it will be twice the length of this eclipse. So if you think 2017 is bad, 2017 is the training for 2024, which is the training for 2025. So it is entirely possible that in the next 30 years, you can see 3 total eclipses from the United States. That's pretty cool. So this is not a once-in-a-lifetime event. Here I am underselling the eclipse. Not a once-in-a-lifetime event. It is not going to kill you if you miss it. But please do be safe when you're doing it. And if you can, make it to the eclipse. If you've got plans already to go to the eclipse, fantastic. If you think you want to go to the eclipse, you're not going to the eclipse. No place to go. They're afraid they're going to run out of food in some of these cities. So, stay in Florida, see the eclipse, wait a couple of years, enjoy yourselves then. Now let's just kind of pump the brakes and kind of take our time with it. But then we can now turn it over to you guys. Any questions that you have for me,